Are you gonna have a couple of drinks? What?
No, it's not muted. What up, guys? Bobo here with BrassReel Brothers. Thanks for coming back for some more popcorns. Got my boy Andrew here.
Howdy, people.
Yeah, we got a kind of like impromptu little deal right here. For some reason, I can't hear myself on here. I don't know why I couldn't hear the music or anything right there, but hopefully you guys are hearing this. Let me check on something real fast just to make sure. We just checked on it and it should be fine. But yeah, everything's coming through, so we're good. So just wanted to double check on that. But hey, look, we're getting this for Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th tomorrow. And so I figured let's talk about the franchise a little bit. It's one of my favorites of all time.
Yeah. And obviously we are horror fans. So, it's kind of, why not? So,
yeah, I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about Friday the 13th, but Friday the 13th, along with Freddy and Michael Myers maybe seeming like the more realistic one, at least from the get-go. But these movies became to where you were like rooting for them. You weren't hoping and like, oh no, I hope that they make it out alive. You're like, yeah, fuck him up, Jason. That's what you want to go see. And that's the whole point of these movies. And so in turn, like I remember as a kid and even now rooting for these guys like they're superheroes, and like that's what Jason is to me. My two favorite fictional characters of all time are Batman and Jason Voorhees.
Straight up. Complete opposite ends of the spectrum.
Oh, yeah. One of them, his mom said, kill for money. And the other one's fight crime because his parents died. But...
right. Well, I never like cheered for Jason, it was never for me. It was never like that, but it definitely is one of those, you're watching a Jason movie. And so then it becomes like, okay, so how's this going to happen? He's going to die. So how is it going to happen this time? And then just, as the years went on, it just became more of a, brutality kind of, oh yeah, that was a fucking great kill kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree. And it is so fucking just like not old. It doesn't get old for me. At least Jason doesn't. I don't like it when other slasher movies are coming out and they're just doing the same thing. Like maybe certain things, like I don't know if you guys have ever seen The Burning. I don't know if you've seen that. It's got Jason Alexander in it.
I know that film. Yeah.
I mean, it's essentially a Friday the 13th ripoff, but Friday the 13th is a ripoff of Halloween. I mean, they even said it. They just said, let's just reshape it. Instead of in a neighborhood, let's make it out of camp. Because in the Halloween, it was the babysitters and all their parents were just not around because they were out and about and doing stuff. So they're babysitters. Well, they were alone.
The three longest running horror franchises in history are the three that copy each other: Freddy, Jason, and Michael Myers.
They're called the big three. Yeah. It's like there's Chevy, Ford, and Dodge. There's Jason, Freddy, and Michael.
And Scream is catching up to him. Ghostface.
And look, Ghostface arguably in the 90s created himself, and so did Jigsaw, created themselves in the sort of horror slasher icons, if you will. Now, would they have ever existed without Jason, Freddy, and Michael? Probably not.
No.
But it is pretty cool that Ghostface, you'll see people dressed up as Ghostface for Halloween. And to me, it's like if it crosses that threshold of pop culture that you don't have to have seen the movies to know who these characters are, then it's huge.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what Jason is. There's a lot of people my mom's never seen a Friday the 13th movie, but she knows exactly who Jason is.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not even because of just me. I think she knew about Jason before I was around. Everybody. In fact, think about this. Hockey masks have been tainted forever because of Jason. I mean, there's no person that can wear an old school hockey mask anymore. Now, granted, they're probably not as practical as the newer hockey masks. No. But as soon as that shit started becoming Jason Voorhees thing, the NHL was like, all right, we got to cancel this out. Come up with something different.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that mask was never put on Jason's face until like part 3, I think.
That's it. You're exactly right. Part 3. And what's funny is that it was sort of in the spur of the moment. Well, think about the way we found our mask for Lake Court. We just found it shopping, and that's the way all these guys do it. I think somebody had a hockey mask in some of their gear in the back of their truck because one of them played like hockey on their own in their off time or something. And they were just like, we got to do something besides the potato sack this time, because they did the potato sack in the second one. And then there's a lot of people that like to take credit for it. There's a lot of people that are like, I'm the one that decided, hey, look, we should put a hockey mask. And then there's other people that are like, look, it just sort of fell into the situation, and it just was like, all right, cool, put it on. But I do think it is funny how it's like, you don't think of hockey when you see that thing. Right. You think of Jason.
Yeah. Like we thought long and hard about the mask that was going to be for our killer in Lake Court. You know, the film that we are doing, and it's so weird and funny to think about the what goes into the thinking of an old school 80s hockey mask that is now just iconic for Jason. You know, or you know, if you've all done your research about the Michael Myers mask and it being a William Shatner a lookalike mask from Star Trek. I mean, it's insane what they put a lot of thought into that, and we were just like, I guess maybe just go to a Halloween store and see what we can find.
Well, see, but that's how they found that mask for Michael Myers, is they did just go to the Halloween store, but then they doctored it up and did a lot to it afterwards. Yeah, we didn't do shit to ours. We just put it on there. Hey, Sydney and Garrett, what's going on, by the way? That's some friends of mine. One of my close friends, Michael George, growing up. That's right. His name's Michael George.
Oh.
Not George Michael, but Michael George. We just rekindled this past weekend, and I got to see his whole family and stuff. I mean, I used to live at his house. When I was growing up, we lived in the same neighborhood and everything. So
right on.
What's up, Sydney and Garrett? How you guys doing? I know y'all went to Turnstile the other night, or at least you did, Garrett. I saw the picture, so I hope you had a good time, man. But thanks for tuning in, guys. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about Jason Voorhees. I hope your dad don't mind that, or your mom don't mind that either. But we're talking about Friday the 13th.
Well, let's get to it.
Yeah, let's get to it. So, first and foremost, we've got, hang on, let me get back to, see, this is why I hate not using a mouse. All right, there we go. Boom. All right, so when Friday the 13th came out in 1980, it was literally Sean S. Cunningham directed it. Victor Miller wrote it. And they were two guys that had a production company, and they were making movies already. And they had made like a family film that was like a soccer movie, but they were really trying to just make movies. They really didn't care what movie it was. They just like, how do we get into this industry? So they literally put out a poster for Friday the 13th. And here. So this is the poster that I'd pulled in. And I thought that I had another one that I had made that had like the original cool little poster. I'll find it in a second. But
it sounds like two other dudes I know who are two guys trying to get themselves in the industry.
Two guys trying to make a horror movie. So yeah, that does sound like somebody familiar, huh? Yeah, I think Andrew is a guy I know trying to make a horror movie, and another guy named Bobby, BrassReel Bobby. Oh. Hey! But anyway, so they put a poster out, and it wasn't this poster. It wasn't Friday with the pictures on it or anything like that. But
oh yeah, that would have given the whole thing away,
right? And obviously the hockey mask wasn't even in there, or the potato sack yet. It was just the mom being the killer. And I had another poster that I thought I'd imported. Maybe it didn't import properly, but they were just making this movie to try to make some money. And they put a poster out before they had a script, before they had anything. And it said, now granted, Sean S. Cunningham had made Last on the House on the Left with Wes Craven. Wes Craven and him were good friends. They had gone to school together and done all kinds of stuff. So they had made movies together. Cunningham was a producer, but Cunningham was getting more into like, I want to direct something. So they literally said, let's do this. They looked at Halloween. They said, it's doing well. Let's make a movie. So they put this poster out that said, from the guys, that brought you Last House on the Left, the scariest movie you've ever seen, or the scariest movie ever made, or something like that. That's literally all they had. No script, nothing. But they put that poster out. And because of that poster, now granted, it was a different time, people invested in this movie. Investors came to them, hunt them down and said, I want to be a part of this because of the success of Halloween.
Yeah. You put something out like that now when it's like, what are you guys doing? Okay, well, you got something to.
What do you mean you don't have a movie, a poster?
You don't even have a trailer. What is the matter with you guys?
Yeah,
but that's how crazy the industry was then. They were hungry for so many different projects and ideas. So, and you could just present them with something like that. And I mean, look what happened.
And Victor Miller, wrote a great script. I think that Friday the 13th, the first one, is a legit horror movie.
Now, that begs the question. Do you think that script, just the script, not the way it's shot, do you think that script holds up even now? If you were to read that script now, just the screenplay,
Dude,
do you think that you would still be scared?
I do.
Like, oh.
I do. Obviously, I know it. So it's going to be, it's just like if you've been on the roller coaster ride, but you're not going to be surprised anymore.
Yeah.
But I do think the story holds up. Now, here's why. Because remember how I talk about the sort of like, let's stretch out a moment in movies. I don't like it when one of the things I think that's not working about the Scream movies is they try to cover like a few days, especially in this last one. It's like a few days. Like you see the sun go up and down a few times. And they did that in the first one and stuff too, but the first one just worked better. But what I like about David Gordon Green's Halloween is he stretches out this long, this chunk of time, and he stretches that out and gets you involved with it. And that's what Friday the 13th does. They get there, and as the sun's going down, you don't ever see the sun come back up until the ambulance is taking her in. And so it's like when it starts, it starts. Halloween's the same way the first one and the second one. But after that, it's like starts the day before Halloween and shit like that. And anyways, point I'm trying to make is I think that that's why that movie works. It's not complicated. The whole time you're just trying to figure out who's killing these teenagers. There's no like, yes, when you find out what's going on, it's like, oh man, he wrote a cool origin. And then they just shot a movie around that origin pretty much. Oh, this lady's killing people because her son drowned in the lake because the counselors were having sex. And that's another thing. That's where the whole like, don't have sex.
Don't have premarital sex. Yeah.
I mean, Friday the 13th almost single-handedly did that. I mean, I guess Halloween kind of did too, but it was really made clear in the Friday the 13th movies. Oh, if you drink, if you smoke weed, if you have sex,
you're going to die. You're done.
You're out of here.
The rules. Those are the rules.
Those are the rules. Yeah. So, I mean, okay.
No, I guess, I mean, the storyline,
but it is everything about it. It is the package. It's also the,
oh yeah.
It's all of that.
The storyline obviously could be redone. If somebody presented me with that script, I would be like, I guess I was wondering, like, do you think if you read the dialogue the way it was read in that script, do you think it would hold up today? Or would it be like, well, no, but the story is still really, really good.
Yeah, the dialogue would have to be reworked and things like that. But I think, again, one of the things that works real honest about that movie for me is, one, I went to summer camp growing up, which is when we get to part 6 in a second. That's something we'll discuss there. But I went to summer camp growing up. And so the way they made those cabins look and everything, it was just exactly like the Woodman of the World camp that I went to, or the Kiwanis Club or something like that, growing up. And I would do it for a week.
I went to a lot of camps, man, but none of them were ever around a lake. I got to be honest.
No, yeah, in Louisiana, there's water everywhere.
Okay, touche.
But
did they ever establish in any of these movies where this is?
That's a good question. In the back of one of the signs in the grocery store or in the convenience store, you see it says, I think it's like upstate New Jersey. It's like it's there because there's a part of those areas that's not city.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's actually nice and country. And so it is in the New Jersey, New Yorkish countryside area.
Okay. No, I guess that makes sense because that makes sense for like part 100 where he takes Manhattan. So,
right. Cause they take a ferry over to Manhattan on the side of the coast there. But I do think that you got a woman killer, the mother, it's compelling because it's like, if a mother's son drowned in a weird way because of these counselors, and like she may snap or she may not, but if she does snap, she might be like, and again, this is a time before internet.
The killer could easily be female.
In that one, you don't think so? He hates it.
I'm referencing Scream.
I know that's what I'm saying. You hate it when female, like especially like my girl. And Scream 4, I love Emma Roberts, so I've got a thing for her. But I also bought it in Scream 4, but he didn't.
No.
But do you buy that the mother could do it in Friday the 13th?
For sure. I just didn't like how it when I didn't like the cinematography,
Those
the
children are having sex when they drown my boy.
the way it went the way it all went down when it was finally revealed that it was Jason's mother who was behind it all, and the only one left is another fucking girl who is putting up a fight, and suddenly she just doesn't seem to put up a fight like she was. I don't know, like it was like, well, now that we're going to reveal that it's the woman who's the killer and the only other person who's left is another woman, now we're going to make it sloppy.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying, but
that was the style then. I get it.
Yeah, and
it worked. It worked for that time. I totally.
But
totally
she's sort of like, okay, so think about it this way. They made Alice, who's the final girl in the first one, they made her like sort of like questioning everybody throughout the movie. She was sort of kind of like not as bought into the party aspect as everybody. They weren't really relying on those tropes quite yet, but she did. It seems like that she would have put up a little bit more of a cunning fight with her in the end, that it would have made it tougher for the mother to fight in the end. Whereas prior to that, she was just sneaking up on people, or she was getting girls that were sort of naive. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, again, if you break it down
they
hardcore,
did get Kevin Bacon right under the fucking bed
after he
never even got a chance to see it coming.
After he just had sex, though, so he's all like, "Oh yeah, I got it." Yeah, that's a classic kill. That one messed with me like crazy as a kid, dude. Especially at summer camp, I'm just like, no, dude, I'm telling you, and I think it's because I'd seen part 6. So let's move on.
All right.
So I love part 1. I think, but I do think that like, just like the first Saw, just like the first Nightmare, just like the first Halloween, all of those are legit horror movies. Yeah. They truly are. It's the sequels moving forward where they start to go down in quality. However, there's something about this franchise that it doesn't matter how ridiculous it gets. I love, like the Michael Myers ones. There's some of those where I'm like, oh God. Freddy ones I can have fun with, but these, I just love them all, man. I don't know what I mean. And there's some bad ones.
The Freddy ones you can have fun with because it's all they establish that those are in a dream. They can get as wacky as they want. It's all in your dream.
But it does go a little too off the rails.
It does.
Whereas this one, as far as it goes off the rails with even Jason X, it's still like, yeah, fuck him up, Jason. I don't know. It's just the way I feel about it. All right, so part 2. This is where Jenny comes in. This is where now it's happened. This one's supposed to take place 5 years later. And the way they established that is because there's a cop talking to one of the camp counselor leaders. And he's like, look, these kids don't want to be walking around in the woods. Like, things have been cool for 5 years. Nothing's happened for 5 years now.
No. There's like 4 scenes where they say 5 years. It's been 5 years. Cut to, it's been 5 years. It's been 5 years.
They don't not in part.
Oh yeah.
In part, I just watched it today.
Oh yeah. It's very much like, by the way, it's been 5 years since the first.
So how do you feel about him just being able to track her down? Because here's the deal. There are some people that I've talked to and they just don't understand that the end part with Jason coming out of the lake as a boy was a dream. Like that, there was no Jason in the lake.
By the way, did they like 4 end scenes that were dreams?
Yeah, no, because they wanted to keep you hanging on and all that stuff. And even the mother comes out of the lake into part 3
with her fucking head on.
Yeah, and worms coming out of her eyes. Yeah, even though she got her head chopped off. So I think that they started to. I'll be going back to Jason. Like Jason's dead at the end. Like as a boy, he's not. I'm gonna say he's dead. He's not in the water. So like they never established that Jason wasn't grown, and he had to have been grown because at the very beginning of the movie it says like 1960 something or 50 something, and it shows those little kids get killed.
Well, yeah, actually, that's the very first movie is actually shows you a clip from 1958.
That's what I'm saying.
Where, and then it flashes to like 79 or 80.
So that's the year that her boy got killed. And that's when she first started getting back at the specific counselors.
Right.
Now that they've come back in 80, so Jason is grown in the first one. He's just not killing these people.
So it begs the question, well, where's he been? Has he grown like this? But they would rather you just not ask that question. So
I would rather not know that question because of part 2, we get Jason Voorhees. And the fact that they made an entire franchise off of a character that was not even in the first movie of the franchise is awesome. You know what I'm saying?
No, it ended up being a big spoiler, big like, oh my god,
oh,
it's Jason the kid.
And at the time in that opening scene when he tracks down Alice and he kills her and he's got the mother's head in the icebox and everything. I liked that. I thought that was cool. It still had that grit to it. It still felt like, all right, I like where they're going with this. But after that, it was just like he becomes a zombie. You can kill him and kill him and kill him and kill him. But the second one, immediately, the first one, there was no Hollywood. Didn't feel Hollywood. It didn't look Hollywood. It didn't. Everything about it felt like horror movie lovers that were really trying. The second one, immediately, there's a Hollywood sheen on it because it made the first one made a ton of money. So they were like, all right, let's double the budget, which is cool, but I think can take away from it.
What was Hollywood when it came to a horror film in the early 80s?
You like literally, if you put on part one and then put on part two right after it, you'll see there's a grit and sort of a way the camera moves that has this sort of, they do the POV a lot better.
The answer is money.
Well, yeah. Oh, of course. I thought you were saying visually what looked different about it, but no. Yeah.
Well, I mean like even the short film, even the short film that we just did was a small budget, and our cinematographer even told us, he's like, you guys get like an extra like $3 or $4 for this thing, and suddenly it looks completely different because you have more. You have more hired hands who know what they're doing and things, and just suddenly it's just elevated a little bit more, and you just don't realize that until you see something. And
sure.
It's like, well, yeah. So yeah, it doesn't in a lot of cases, in this specific case with the early 80s and Friday the 13th, it doesn't mean, I don't think anyways, that it just suddenly it was just suddenly acted better and written better. It just suddenly means that you can tell there's a bit more money behind it.
Oh yeah. But I also think that there's like, you feel the formula setting in, even in the second one. Before there was a formula, you're like, oh, they're trying to turn this into a franchise because it starts to get these sort of, now don't get me wrong. I love part two and I think all that is really great, but just like, the first one, I really didn't know what was going on. The second one, I'm waiting for the kills. You feel like you know when the kill's about to happen. Whereas the first one, there's a lot of moments that are still like, today, obviously it doesn't scare me, but I look at it and I'm like,
scare you?
Yeah, it doesn't. But I look at it and I'm like, man, that just is framed really badass. Like you could tell that they were like, ooh, all right, this is it. Action, instead of them like, all right, let's get a so-and-so, and we got, and I feel like that was a little more like that on the second one, whereas the first one, I feel like Sean Cunningham was like behind the camera, whereas the second one, I feel like it's more of a like, y'all, you know what I mean? It just, and the third one directed by the same guy, Steve Miner, by the way, who did and Sean S. Cunningham produced it still, but he's like, I don't want to direct it. He's like, you do what you got to do. And the third one is the 3D gimmick. Now, to me, the second one is cool, but there's no surprises.
No, that's not true. And the second one, the surprise is that Jason is the killer,
right?
And you have no idea who could be this time. You literally saw her get her head chopped
but
off.
You didn't feel like that. You knew that was, maybe it's because I knew that these movies existed. Like by the time I saw part two, they were already on like part 5 or 6. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or even 7. But I guess that
no. I mean, I'm just putting myself.
The first one, I was just like, whoa,
yeah.
The mom, and you get introduced. She's like, hi, I'm so and so and so with the Chrissies, and it just takes this sort of pause and emotion.
She was creepy immediately.
That's what I'm saying. But it's all this dun, 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 and these kills, and all of a sudden it's like it's quiet for a second. She's like, I'm so and so and so and so, and then like they get to know each other for like 5 minutes.
There's no way. Like, where have you been?
Yeah.
Where have you been? No.
Whereas the second one, it's just like there's someone killing the whole time, and I honestly feel like it's Jason. You see a flannel shirt with a man hand. You see, like, I'm thinking, who is this coming after this person?
Yeah, you can think. You can think, who is this coming out? Is clearly not the mother.
I guess
but the audience in that time, I truly believe was thrown for a loop when they realized it was Jason as an adult, and that means he never drowned. I mean, what does that mean? Does that mean he never drowned? And he's been hiding in the woods. You know, I mean, that has got to be what was going through all their minds.
Maybe, like I said, maybe it's because I already knew that Jason was the killer, and so I'm watching it and being like, oh yeah, Jason's the killer. But I guess what I'm saying is that I feel like that there's like this with Friday the 13th, the first one, and then it's like this, oh, I did not see that coming. Whereas this one, it's kind of like, it's Jason, you know. And then by the time they do 3 and 4, part 3, the 3D gimmick one, which I gotta keep remembering, I don't have my mouse connected. Now, this one, if you're able to watch it in 3D, which I am because I have the PlayStation VR, and I've got it on 3D on my box set here, it actually works awesome, and it's really fun. You can see that they put a shit ton of effort into making this one 3D. Like they really tried.
It was like everything was coming at that camera.
Like, but it wasn't just like, yes, they did
that yo-yo.
The yo-yo, yes, they did that, the silly gimmicks, and yes, they did the like kids playing baseball and the baseball bat gets but they also did kills it was like machete slashing through a leg, blood. I mean, they did some really cool stuff, eyeball popping out at the screen.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So like for the time, it was really good, and I still think it holds up for that nostalgic reason. For some reason though, I love the 70s and 80s horror look. I almost think that the aesthetic of that time fits better for horror. Like when I'm watching that new show Candy on Hulu right now, it's in 1980, so it's practically still the 70s, and it's just the way things all looked, whether it be the clothing, the couches, the tables, everything. I just think it fits that time.
Yeah, but I also think it's because we are able to understand how simplistic things were then.
Sure.
You know,
we did sift. We still lived in a time where there was no Facebook. Like we got to see it at a time. And
Facebook. I remember dial-up, or not having a cordless phone.
Remember when America Online was like, whoa, dude, we can get in chat rooms.
Like, get off the phone! I need to get online. Yeah.
But so I do think that part 3, that for that time, it was awesome. I think that.
And how did part 3 end? That was
that's the one where she gets him. So that's the one where she tells the backstory of, I had come to this camp one time and this guy attacked me.
Oh yeah, but you find that out like an hour into the movie film, that she has escaped him already once before.
Right.
It's like, what?
It gets a little wacky, but it also has some cool moments, and that's the one where he does don the mask. That's the one, like he comes out of that barn all of a sudden, he's walking with that harpoon
because like
gun.
you got the classic comedic guy who plays pranks on everybody the whole time.
Shelly
comes up with the mask after playing all these pranks, and suddenly I'm gonna take that mask, and that's gonna be my icon.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that, like, even though it's not a big deal as far as the transition in the film, that it's not like this music swelling, he picks up the mask and puts it on. It's nothing like that. It's just you see him walk out, but it's just like, why hasn't he been wearing that the whole fucking time? You know, because you had a whole movie prior where he had the potato sack, which was creepy.
Yeah.
Very creepy. Oh,
yeah.
But there's something when you saw the mask, you're like, it's almost like, I think I'm in love. Like there's a little bit of that emotion to where, and I think that moment is where in the franchise you start rooting for Jason. When you see him in that hockey mask walking down that deck, and he's just got that harpoon gun and he points it up and shoots it straight in her eye. That's another thing. The harpoon comes straight up the camera.
Yeah.
I just, again, you're just like, Jason Voorhees. And then he sees her at the end. And that's the one where he runs. He runs a lot in that movie.
Yeah. Well, so it's part 3, and
so she gets him at the end in a barn, and she ends up hanging him.
Right.
And she had stabbed an axe in his head, and finally, like once she stabbed the axe, he's coming at her, and then he falls down.
But I'm just saying, and I'm jumping ahead real quick, but I'm going to go right back. But the 2009 remake, they take characters from or scenes or storylines
from the first 4
from the first 4, and that when that is the
put them in a blender.
Put them in a blender, and when that's when you see the Jason who's like running after people, and he sees the and he's also got a potato sack, but he sees the mask and kind of grabs it, and they kind of overdo that with the whole like. I'm gonna make this, and the camera. I'm gonna make this shine real quick.
I don't know. I don't mind it because it's just like he pulls it back from something and he puts it on, then he kind of sees it in a broken mirror for a second. But that's right before he kills that guy. That's like, when what shift stretch? You almost hit the start button on the whoop ass machine. Yeah, that guy's hilarious. That guy's so awesome. He's like, you want some of this weed? No,
Yeah.
want some? Fuck your shit up. That guy's awesome. But yes, and that in the 2009, we'll get to that though.
Yeah.
But they do take the best elements of part 1 through 4. But part 3 is where you see him at the end in the barn, and there's this. And now, one of the things I like about part 3 is because they were doing it in 3D and they were shooting with a lot of 3D cameras. They initially, the whole film has this little cooler attention to cinematography. They really try to do some cool shots, like going through a hallway where there's like really more track shots and things like that that really look cool. Like, so like Jason's like coming at her, and like there's just these really cool things in there that stick out, in my opinion.
Right.
It's not just the 3D, but that huge scene at the end, what's really cool, because part 4, which is my favorite one, and this is one of my NECA figures. I've got hundreds of them everywhere, but part 4 is my favorite one, directed by Joe Zito, who also directed The Prowler, which is another one of my favorite slashers. I got a review on my channel here for it. And he directed Missing in Action with Chuck Norris. But that guy's a good director, dude. And I'm telling you, this one is the darkest. It's the best one as far as the tone of Jason. It has all the best elements from what I call the 80s Jason, because once Jason got to Jason Goes to Hell, he sort of started changing. But the 80s Jason, even though they all look different, this one has the best elements of all that as far as the feeling, the house, the campground. It's got another side house. It's got Crispin Glover.
It was also
Corey Feldman.
Yeah. It was also not the final chapter.
Negative.
As it turns out.
No, yeah. I mean, I don't know if you guys knew that. They didn't stop at part 4.
This is like 4 of like 11 or 12.
Yeah. Yeah. This one, though, hands down my favorite one. This is also seems to be the fan favorite. This is just the most well-made. I think the first one has its own vibe, but to me, the first one is a cool initial horror movie that just like, I don't know what this is. Let me watch it. That was a great story. This is the best Jason movie. You know what I'm saying? There's no Jason in part 1. Yeah. This one, as far as Jason's concerned, this is the most fun that Jason is, in my opinion. Not played by Kane Hodder, played by Ted White, but there's something about the way Joe Zito films this entire movie. I don't know if you notice the darkness that's in Scream 4 when you see like Ghostface at night and everything. It's just got this way weird darkness to it that, in my opinion, works. I'm not talking about necessarily the tone of the film with dialogue. I'm just talking about visually. Mm-hmm. This one does that same thing, man. There's moments where you see Jason just come out of the darkness and he's got this fucking wet hawking mask, and he's just like, you don't see any eyes, but it's like you just feel this menacing character under there. I don't know. To me, this has got the best kill scenes in it.
Well, I guess you could argue that if you eliminated the very first one and just made it to where it's 2, 3, and 4, that's a great trilogy.
It is. It actually. They all really work well together. Because none of them, they don't get silly at that point. They still have, okay, it's teenagers going to the woods. How are we going to kill them? But part 5, like, while this one to me, even you show it to like solid directors and they'll be like, all right, yes, it's a Jason movie, but this is well done.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
You got little Corey Feldman going to shaving his head to kind of, because he does his research on Jason and does the whole like, die! Looking like Jason to distract him, and it does kind of end up throwing him off. Jason kind of stares at him at the end with under the mask, and then the iconic image of little boy Tommy with a shaved head, looking like a freak. Die!
Yeah, and he's saying it just like that.
Yeah.
Die!
Yeah.
Die! And then Jason gets the machete halfway to the head and is like, just slides down it, and his eyeballs twitching, and it's done by Tom Savini, who did the first movie. So he was like, he even said, you let me create the monster, and thank you for letting me to kill the monster. But obviously they didn't kill him.
Yeah, no one killed him.
So Friday the 13th part 4, I recommend it. If you've never seen a Jason movie or a Friday the 13th movie, I say watch this one because it'll give you the best vibe from the 80s of what Jason was all about then. And I think it's the most well-made.
That's really not a bad idea. You could say watch part 4
If you're wanting to watch a Jason
Yeah,
movie.
if you're talking to someone who's never bothered getting into any of this, you say, okay, watch the final chapter. If you like that as a whole, as a movie, rewind.
Yes, but I do think that if you want to put like some of the greatest horror films of all time, I think that Friday the 13th, the first one, belongs in that category.
Well, of course,
you know what I'm saying?
Set everything in motion,
right? But I just do think that for its time, what it did, that's a quality. That's like, dude, that's badass. What you stood for, what you accomplished, everything. But then it became this one right here, and I got to tell you, this one, while I love watching it, it is not a good movie. And why am I having a hard time finding the picture of it? Let me see if I can. Well, it's part 5. And don't worry, nobody's seeing this, but it's part 5. And part 5 is just called A New Beginning. And it was directed by Danny Steinman, who, I'm not kidding, was a porn director.
And it certainly was a new beginning, because the the spoiler alert about this movie, Jason's not even in this.
Well, and so and that's the thing, you saw him like fully get killed in part 4, and the other ones you didn't see that. You just saw maybe he's dead. This one you're like, dang, his head got chopped in half. But this whole time you're thinking it might be Tommy, because at the end of part 4, Corey Feldman character, he's like hugging his sister and everything, and then the camera gets close and it slows down slow-mo, and he like winks at the camera like. So you're thinking maybe Tommy's going to be the killer. And Tommy is in part 5, and it takes place at this mental institution. And look, it's got the most boob shots in it. It's got the best boob shot in it by a girl named Deborah Voorhees.
Oh.
Her name is Deborah Voorhees, and she's got the best boob shot.
And they did that on purpose.
Dude, it's awesome. Look it up. You can even YouTube a video where there's a music video song behind it about a guy's first nude scene he ever saw in a horror movie was part 5, and it was this scene. And he dedicates a whole video to it.
Well, listen, because at the time, if you're doing a slasher movie, or any horror movie, I guess for that matter, if it did not have a female breast, it was just not, nobody wanted to watch it.
No,
it's just that those are the times, and they just exploited that, and they made their money on it. They did.
And look, it's one of those movies that was not well received when it first came out, because it was an imposter Jason. It was basically this kid gets killed at the beginning at this mental institution camp. Yeah. Okay. Just right there at Crystal Lake, where they had the Jason killings. Let's go have a mental institution out there. But this kid gets killed by another crazy kid, and it turns out to be one of the paramedics' sons, but you don't find that out till later. But all of a sudden these kids start dropping like flies. And Tommy Doyle, Corey Feldman's character, who's a different actor, is there now, and all these people
like 10 years later.
Yeah, he's all grown up and everything, but he won't talk. He's all silent, and he's all pissed, and he's weird. But then it turns out to be this paramedic's father that's Jason, and that's the thing. Like, he's doing all these things and getting hurt by people like Jason would, but yes, he doesn't really look like Jason. He kind of has a different body type and everything. And this is the one where they do the marks on the mask that are normally red.
Oh, yeah.
And they normally go up, they go down, and they're blue. So that's the hint that it's an imposter Jason.
Yeah.
And it is. So that whole movie, while it's got the most kills and it's got the most boobs, it has almost every single kill is an off-screen kill, meaning that if it's a kill with no blood involved, like there's one where he sticks like a road flare in one guy's mouth, and it's like, and you see the flames coming out, but it's like, yeah, that's awful, but you don't really see any cool kill.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that's like a cool axe stab or anything like that, it almost completely goes off screen, and then it shows blood on the wall or something like that. It's just coming from part 4, which was just such an awesome, like, damn, look at that effect. It's the MPA got really crazy about it, and every movie in the 80s from that point on.
I was about to say, I think if I'm not mistaken, the MPA really, came down on them about the blood,
because the mothers were writing to Hollywood and basically like, we want this to stop, and so like, yeah, if you look at about 85 on until about the early 90s, all horror movies were very bland as far as the on-screen kills.
Because I think, man. And again, I'm jumping ahead, but the 2009 Friday the 13th that we're going to get to is a mixture of 1 through 4, and there is that scene where the girl's getting burned in the while she's in her sleeping bag. I think it's in the final chapter where she's in a yellow sleeping bag, and he's picked her up and just slamming her against the tree.
Yeah.
And there's hardly any blood.
There's not. And what they did is you can watch the behind the scenes on Crystal Lake Memories, where he's slamming the girl up against the tree, and they do it all these multiple times, and all this blood packet in there, but they couldn't get it to work right, and they ended up going with this one take because that's what they could finally. But they say they think it works better, but I would have liked to see crazy shite. Hey, I hate to do this. We were gonna go to the whole franchise. We're gonna have to do a part 2 and finish this because my stepdad just texted me and said they landed like half an hour early. Oh. There's like 6 people with them. I have to go pick them up, guys. So we'll just do a sequel to this video. It'll be fine, but this will be out. And so we just kind of ended with part 5. We'll pick up from part 5 and finish the rest of the franchise next time you come over. Is that cool?
Okay, man. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I just got that text and I can't leave them hanging at the airport. So
that's
hey,
your call, man.
Much love to you guys. Thank y'all for joining. And hey, look, keep your eyes out for the second half of this video. We're going to do it soon. I promise. And even if we have to do it from your house and my house, and we'll do it like a shared call, we're going to do it though. But hey, thank you guys.